athletic directors yesterday and today. We put a lot of preparation and time into those meetings, and they were good. They were good meetings. We looked at the bowl environment, not only at the BCS level in the past, but the emerging models. We also looked at the fact that we're just 2 years to go in the regular cycle of other bowls, so we spent a lot of time talking about other bowls as well. And talked a little bit about bowl eligibility. You probably got some flavor from that from our athletic directors, but if there's not unanimity, it's a very strong consensus that 7 and 5 is a better standard than 6 and 6. That a winning record. We've experimented with the 12th game. We experimented with the 6 and 6. But we think it's better for our programs, better for our fans, and better for the bowl system for us to have a winning season in order to qualify. As far as the BCS is concerned, I have to say that just the discussion of the postseason has probably absorbed as much attention and energy as any other subject we've had, including expansion and including preparation for a major television negotiation. So our people have been fully engaged. To put that in a little bit of perspective, we had our first meeting on the subject a little less than a year ago when we had a Big Ten, Pac-10 joint AD's meeting in California with the Rose Bowl, where we looked at a variety of models. And since then, it sort of calmed down for a couple months, and then it sort of engaged seriously in the fall, when I think, I was probably accurately quoted saying that we wanted to be curious and we were interested in participating in playoff discussion. That didn't mean that we knew what we wanted to do. It didn't mean anything other than that we would be engaged. And we have been engaged with our colleague conferences, colleague commissioners, bowls, TV consultants, and the net of it is, I think, I asked Diane to count up for me the other day, in terms of conference calls, committee meetings involving Rose Bowl, BCS, presidents from the Big Ten and the Pac-10, athletic directors, coaches, faculty, and student athletes, because the coaches reported today on a variety of meetings they've had with student athletes over the last 2 weeks, and virtually of the 10 athletic directors here, every one of them had some interaction with student athletes. And the total number of meetings, conference calls, in-person visits was somewhere between 55 and 65 such meetings and conference calls. So we've been engaged. The other thing I would tell you is that the Rose Bowl has been very engaged. And at the end of the process, whatever it is, I'm convinced of their sincerity and desire to participate in the process, be flexible in the process, be fair in the process. So, they want to be part of the landscape in the bowl system. And, they I think, showed flexibility 15 years ago. And then as the BCS has evolved, they've been a good partner to us and also to the other bowls. And they continue, I think, to show an openness, for a group that had its first game 110 years ago. They have been tradition, great brand, but also willing to change and adjust as we have with them. And so you'll hear, some opinions from me, and you probably heard some opinions from our athletic directors. Those are advisory, pending our presidents, because I think Chancellor Perlman was clear in his comments 10 days ago. Adam did a great job of getting to Chancellor Perlman, and Chancellor Perlman was pretty clear. He's not a playoff proponent. But he's willing to engage and to discuss. He's our representative on the oversight committee. He's got a lot of experience, both in the Big 12 and now in the Big 10. He favored a +1. We'll see where he goes. You can hear our athletic directors. They're focused in on inside the bowls, and they're focused on keeping the Rose Bowl relevant inside that system. But at the end of the day, in every conference, commissioners work for presidents, and they work with everyone else. And I think we've tried to do our job at the coach level, the athletic director level, Rose Bowl Management Committee, BCS colleagues, and with consultants. And we're moving, in the direction on the what, on the model of what. So that's maturing a bit, and I'm hopeful, that in the next 60 days that thing will be resolved. The how and the who are yet to be resolved. We know what the how has been to date, and it's received a lot of scrutiny and created some controversy. The polls, the coaches' polls, rating teams before they ever play, the computers not being transparent about what's in the guts of the program, not always measuring home field, not always measuring margin of victory, and not always having a huge number of data points. So there's been a lot of scrutiny and a lot of judgment of the polls by people in the media, by coaches, and by fans. And there's been a lot of criticism. They're not perfect. And, I think it's sort of to be determined going forward, if we get to a 1 through 4, how and who. And I don't think there's any question that certain teams during the course of the season separate themselves from others. But there's also no doubt that in certain cases the differences are paper thin. And when differences are paper thin, the question is how do you value conference champions versus highly regarded and rated independents and highly regarded and rated non-champions from conferences. And so that's the who. And, I think the discussion is unfolding fairly naturally around the country. Commissioner Kramer, who's the founder of the BCS, spoke to this issue as early as February 17th of this year, where he, proposed champions only without any restrictions. A number of other people have addressed that. We've not proposed that. Some others propose sticking with the polls regardless of their weakness as a sole arbiter of how to determine who is the 4th best team in the country or the 3rd best team in the country. And so we'll have that discussion and that debate. Others have proposed a hybrid where there's a combination of highly ranked teams and highly ranked conferences. Sort of how to do that is sort of up for discussion. I really hope, and I had a conference call with our football coaches about a week ago, and they were appreciative of having us ask for their viewpoint on it. But what they said to me was the how is even more important than the what. They were in favor of the Rose Bowl, the bowl system. They thought it was the least slippery slope. They understood that on-campus events and games could be competitively favorable to them, but they were very clear that the events ought to occur in the context of the bowl system, including the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl, it's been important to the Rose Bowl. These are separate conversations. The Rose Bowl and the coaches arrive at kind of the same decision, but they through separate kind of discussions. And so our coaches said, the how and the who are as relevant as the what. So what does that mean? That means that there's, as Commissioner Kramer said on February 17, no system is perfect. The one we have is not perfect. The one we'll go to is not perfect. So that sort of begs the question: how will we, make this determination? I will tell you that regardless of how we go, it's going to be difficult for coaches and fans and programs and conferences to absorb being 5 or 4. We have to be, I think, transparent about what we do. I think the conversation about the how and the who needs to be really open to our coaches. Let's get coaches in the room and talk it out. And let's get commissioners in the room and talk it out. Let's do it in front of the media. Let's everyone see the difficulty of these decisions, and then let's just make decisions and then live with them. Because I don't think that, while we've struggled, I think, to do the right thing, I don't think that we have necessarily explained ourselves well on all occasions. And that I think this what has has consumed a lot of interest and time, and rightfully so. And I hope that as a matter of principle, we can have a discussion on the how and the who going forward. We have athletic directors who could easily live with a committee that has guidance and could look at polls. We could easily look at polls in a way that could be advisory or guide our thinking. But certainly polls can't take into consideration if Andrew Luck breaks his arm in a championship game. That team is going to have a computer rating regardless of whether or not Andrew Luck is available to play. And I do think there's room for conference champions. This is a personal observation, as well as highly rated non-conference championships, non-conference champions and independents. How that happens is sort of to be determined, but I think it's a very difficult question, and one that we ought to debate in a very open and transparent way. And we're going to have to make some hard decisions and then live with whatever those decisions are. The regular season has been and will continue to be the bedrock of college football. I know that the postseason is important. I know that the championship game will be important. And I know the model will be important that leads to that championship game. But the bedrock, in my view, are those 12 regular season games and conference championships. And I don't want to adopt a model that discourages playing good opponents. I don't want to adopt a model that in any way belittles the regular season championship process, whether it entails or doesn't entail a championship game. And I also don't want to create a structure that doesn't reward highly regarded teams, whether they're independents or whether they're non-champions from other conferences. So that's to be determined, and I think I'll stop there and see what questions you might have.